And I just said, I'm never going to be in that position again where I'm so scared about providing for my family that I don't feel like I have to tell my truth. And so I absolutely think authenticity is at the core of what I do. And marketing and sales sometimes feels fishy. And that's why I'm so obsessed with numbers, because you can't hide from the numbers. And then I'm going to just tell you like it is. And I won't tell you like it is unless I believe that. And that's why I depend so heavy on numbers. And so as much as that would have been a life-changing job, and I think it would have been really fun, I'm here now. And I can't imagine, this is the beautiful journey, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
that's why authenticity is the first value listed, because I'm never going to not tell the truth.
Step into the world of success with your brand amplified, the ultimate podcast designed to unravel the intricacies of thriving businesses. I'm your host, Annika Jackson, and I'm on a mission to uncover the stories, strategies, and secrets that have propelled entrepreneurs and business leaders to success. Like many of my episodes, this has been a long time coming. Kyle and I connected sometime last year, probably even a year ago, and I'm just really thrilled to now have you as a guest on Your Brand Amplified.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm glad it came together.
I am too, and I love that we got a chance to talk, that your book that you were talking about last year is now a reality. This is a really exciting time. I'm really excited to dive in because you talk about something that it should be first and foremost, but often we think about sales strategy, we think about marketing strategy. Those are all really important. But the really important thing is, what's your revenue? I've had people say, you don't have a business unless you actually are making money, right? So you can have a business if you're losing money, it could be more of a hobby. So there's a difference when you reach that level. So I'd love for you to, before we get into all of this, go back a little bit, because your degree has nothing to do with your career. We also talked a little bit about some of the things that you used to do with karate and other things. So Kyle, give us a little look into your life and how you got into this world of revenue and being a chief revenue officer.
Yeah, I'm a revenue executive by necessity, not by training. And I say it this way because, I don't have an MBA. I didn't come up in marketing or sales. I have no enterprise marketing experience or sales experience. I always ended up sitting next to the CEO or the founder of the company in entrepreneur land. And we both looked at each other and went like, we got to figure this out. Otherwise we can't make payroll. We don't make any money. And that's what I just had no choice but to figure it out. Like, that's always been, kind of what I ended up doing. And along the way, and especially as my career matured, and then I'll really go back a little bit, I was at a digital marketing agency in the executive revenue seat, marketing and sales seat. And the people I was talking to, the business owners or the second in commands or, the VP of sales or the VP of marketing, they kept asking what I felt like were the wrong questions, because I know what the owners care about. I know what the founders care about. They don't really want to know about marketing. They want to know about how marketing influences revenue. Yeah. They want to know if their revenue is profitable. And no marketing and sales organization that I was coming across was thinking of it that way. And I'm like, that's the only way to think about it. And I went to it was kind of a dark place, because I didn't understand where I fit into the world. And I really came out of it realizing the success I had been able to accrue and generate was because I wasn't doing it the way everybody else was doing it. And so I wrote my way of doing it. And that's the Next Level Revenue Formula book. It's coming out in April.
Nice. Perfect timing.
But to tell you how we got here, I think it's worth a few seconds to go backwards.
Please.
And so you absolutely nailed it. I came out of college, I was 23, and I landed in a lab manager job. My technical degree is in soil and waste resources. And I had a great job. I was working for a city. I was number 3 in the facility. I had a bunch of blue collar team members who would come in and help in the lab on the weekends, because we had to do it 365. And the important part of the story is I had dirty water coming into our facility and clean water coming out. And through a series of, quite literally, funnels and pipes, treated and went through multiple stages and steps to make the water go from, dirty to clean. And I had to be like really tight with our numbers and our analytics and our measurements and our process and our systems, because if we misreported the numbers, we would get in big trouble with the Department of Natural Resources. So if you just see how this is going to come together. I've always been obsessed with data, numbers, and flow. And that just carried on. And so I took about as hard of a right turn in my career as I could. I won lab of the year. My boss sat me down at the lab. This was only my second year at the lab. And he goes, Kyle, you are so great. You've done everything we've asked. This is incredible. If you do what you're doing for the next 10 years, you can take my job. And I died. So that's not going to work for me.
Wow. Yeah.
So I went about as far away from that as I could. I went to a karate school. Now, little bit of context here. I'd been teaching on the side there. The person I was working with, the owner, was somebody I earned my black belt with when I was 9 years old. Near and like a very special mentor to me. And he was an entrepreneur. And he said, systems and process, you're good at teaching. Let's go figure this out. And I said, okay. And kind of became a little entrepreneur then, because we kind of had to. It was me, myself, and another full-timer. And that was it. And after about 6 months of working there, I was a good teacher. I was good at the karate part. We sat down and he was really getting into great game of business. And he was really trying to be a better business leader. And we looked at the P&L. It was the first time I really had ever seen a P&L. And he's like, so here's what you made. It was about as much as I made. Here's how much the business made, and it was zero. And here's January, and it looks like we're going to lose money, and that's got to come out of my pocket.
Oh.
And he had mentored me. He had taught me everything I really felt I knew. And I believe I owe him my confidence. And I'm like, this is never going to happen again. I'm never going to be surprised by this. And so even though I had no idea what I was doing in marketing and sales, I took the same approach that I did at the lab. And I started to realize that if we went and did stuff outside of the facility, we sponsored this, we did this event, and we worked on the ads, or we worked on the website, and we did social media, like the more of that we did, more people showed up. And then the better we were at talking to them, the more of them that signed up. And I couldn't help my little analytical brain. I started to write it all down, and I realized, oh my God, there's a pattern here. And I got really good at predicting. And I got really good at knowing our numbers, to the point where it was dialed in. The first year we crossed $1 million. And this was at the time when karate schools didn't make $1 million in revenue. We were one of the first 3 in the country to ever do it. And I sat down and I'm like, we're going to get $1,030,000. That's what I'm telling you in January. We hit $1,033,000 that year. I didn't realize that's actually pretty impressive, because I had no context. I wasn't, a business guy. And he sat me down. We had multiple locations. We had 27 staff. We'd really blown this thing up. And he goes, I'm living my life now. I'm making multiple 6 digits. I'm working 6 hours instead of 60 hours. If you keep doing what you're doing, you can take over. And I said, no, thanks. And I'm in love with marketing and sales. I knew I had more to give, and I wasn't just going to keep doing the same thing. And I got connected to this marketing agency, and I had to grow up. I had to take off my karate uniform and put on shoes and become a business person. And that was a big challenge for me. And I didn't realize at the time, but I'd been handed a laptop and said, go get him, Tiger. And I just did what I always did. I had to figure it out. I listened to what the buyers are doing. We started to do more events. We do this, we do that. And then it built the flow, and I started to make us predictable. That business was stuck at $3 million in revenue for 3 straight years, 2017 or 2018, 2019. And then I came in 2020 and they were at $3 million. The next year was 4 million, then 5 million. And then in my way out, they were going to do 7.5.
Wow.
The third year was completed. And I didn't know that was good yet. I still didn't know that. I didn't know that was good.
Oh my gosh.
And I was struggling because I had reached my plateau there. I wasn't going any further. I was getting frustrated because I needed to get to the next level. And I sat there and I spent a year kind of writing out my way, because I was doing marketing and sales for a marketing agency. So I got this super incredible view of how people thought about marketing and sales, and how we were doing it was different than anybody of our customers. And I just spent a year writing it out. And that really was the original core of Next Level Revenue, is the Kyle way, which is this weird hybrid of marketing and sales. And so far, I started the business a little under 2 years ago. We could hit 2 million in ARR. We use our own formula, and we're doing all the things that I tell our clients to do. And that's the thing I'm most proud of, is like, this isn't just Kyle's brain. This is a method, right, and we do it for ourselves.
Yeah. What an amazing story. I have to say, I didn't major in marketing or branding in college. I was public administration, but I was already working in it organically, kind of like you. I just fell into promoting DJs and clubs, starting when I was in high school in Kansas, of all places, and then moving into other roles and starting to work for a marketing firm. And having to learn my way around things and making mistakes, but also, like having to go to New York and present to an advertiser a plan for a magazine and having the agency for the client say, why did you put it in this order? And because I didn't know what I was doing. And obviously my boss didn't really know either because she approved this and I'm 23 years old, right? But I think that's such a great way to learn and to figure things out. And you bring a different perspective because it's not one that you learned in school of this is the way you have to do things.
I couldn't agree more. I want to learn more about the DJing promotion in Kansas because I can't imagine that scene was very, very hot. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm misjudging.
It was the only thing to do, so yeah. And that is what actually took me to Chicago to then work for a marketing firm and also be in the club promoter. And that's what took me to LA. And that's what took me to San Francisco to actually then use that network to work for and launch magazines.
Oh my
So
gosh.
it ended up being just like for you, this skill set that was super organic and just kept leading me to new opportunities. And now, of course, yeah, I have an undergrad, I'm getting my master's, but I don't think, most of the opportunities I've gotten have been from my practical experience. Even teaching at a university, it's because of my practical knowledge, not because I have a PhD. So kudos to you. And I really want to dive into your formula and, what's happened since you moved into your new business, since you started it. It's not very old. Obviously, a lot of the stuff that you're talking about happened almost in real time. Like it's very recent. So
Yeah, I would show you the scars, but you don't get them from keyboards. So, but yeah, we teach what we needed most, and it sounds like you're getting to do that. And I'm feeling like I'm in a position where I get to share that a little bit and kind of build in public. So that practical knowledge it gives you a different lens, and I'm grateful to have the chance to share a little bit. So, where would you like to go? There's the revenue formula is what it is, but maybe we start just kind of on why I call it revenue. Would that be a good place?
I would love to hear that. Yeah.
And it's a contrarian take, and it's more for the entrepreneurial businesses, right? I generally think of, between 1 and 15 million is where this serves. And it started with this idea that I would watch a marketing group, like a marketing leader outside of the sales team, try and do marketing with the agent. And it would work. Sometimes it would work because it was a good marketing leader and it worked. And then we would get fired, or there would be the CEO would come on and be like, we're not getting good leads. And it's like, no, we got leads. And then it just became this finger pointing of sales and blah, blah, blah. And then sometimes the sales folks would come in and they're salespeople and they're just like, well, marketing's supposed to get the leads. We got to close them. So you do the marketing. Perfect. And it's like, that's not going to work. I know it's not going to work. As I was thinking about this, it was like marketing or sales. Like, why are we having this conversation? Because the only question we ever ask is revenue. And so I fell in love with this idea of chief revenue for small business. You can't afford an executive CMO and an executive CSO. What's the middle? What's the fast and the dirty version of that? And so I'm like, we're going to be the duct tape and popsicle sticks version. Hands dirty. We're going to know how to build this stuff from scratch, even if we have to write the blog ourselves or we have to, coach the sales team ourselves. And I'm going to lay this formula over top of it so it's reproducible, because we all know that, the common myth is marketing and sales is magic. And I'm like, no, we're going to demystify it with simple math. And that's kind of the root of everything is we're going to talk about it as marketing and sales equals revenue, not alignment, more of a few. And then we're going to just use simple math.
Okay. Well, I think it's funny because you're making it sound so simple, but I know that it's much more involved than that. And it's something that people still overlook. When I started my PR firm during the pandemic.
Oh my gosh.
Well, it just kind of happened because I kept getting client referrals and then I ended up building a team, but I grew too fast because I wasn't thinking about revenue first, right? I was thinking, oh, I'm getting all these clients. I need to serve them. I need to bring new team members in. And then I want to make sure my team members are well taken care of and that they have a lot of work and that eventually I give them benefits. But I didn't, I kind of did it backwards because I didn't pay attention to those other things like, let's grow this a little more slowly. Let's really be intentional. Let's not add services that are not our core business because a client needs them. Are these some of the things that you find when you're working with organizations?
I can tell you, I try to stay away from theory and go into practicality, but I think the problems we're talking about are so common. It's the when do we hire XYZ? We're
Exactly.
starting to feel heavy operationally. We've got more work than we can handle. We want to add more headcount. Well, what's the reason why you don't add that director of ops or add that project manager? Is because somewhere in the back of the mind of the leadership team, it's like, are we going to have enough money to cover it next month? Is the pipeline strong enough? Do we trust it? And listen, I come from having that same pain myself. When I first started the business, my confidence was honestly low. I'd been kind of just a little bit. And there's a whole nother story in the book, and I won't spoil it, but it's someone very well known really gave me a mirror and kind of broke my mind a little bit and realized I hadn't been showing up as authentically as I was. And I find that my confidence comes from my authenticity. And I just was never going to be in that position again. And so I started the business kind of on this little bit of fearful place, but just I'm going to tell my truth. Marketing and sales should work together, and businesses should have more intelligence on, not that they're not smart, but more intel on when to hire, when to scale up, how to scale up, because their marketing and sales is giving them that information. And that was kind of the start of it. And, I was so scared to start the business. There's no entrepreneurial blood in my family, really. And my wife's like, if, listen, there's one thing I know about you and the time we've been together, money follows you. So if anybody I trust, go. And yeah, I opened up and I was making more money than I never made in the second month of business. I had more business than I knew what to do with by November. I started July 1 officially. And I did the hard thing. I looked in the mirror and I said, hey, I cannot look at these business owners and ask them to grow and like take on this risk if I'm not willing to do it too. So in December, I'm like, all right, we're going big. And that's when I started to scale up. That was 2024. So that was like 15 months ago.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, pretty crazy. And now we're at about 14 with fractionals. So employee equivalents are probably close to about 10 team members right now. And, there was always this fear. And I have a different kind of sense of the fear of, yeah, do I add now or do I wait? But I only know to do what I do, which is my method. And so I do my own work for myself and I go, okay, here's where we are in the revenue cascade. Here's what the forecast is saying. I trust my forecast. We're going to go. And it was for January, we knew we were going to get 2 clients. We got 2 clients. They signed on the 27th and 28th, but we got them in January. And that's the kind of confidence that I want to give to small business owners about marketing and sales so they can take the big swings, they can make the big investments and feel confident in it.
Amazing. Let's talk about the cost, right? Because small businesses often, we are bootstrapped. We have an idea. We know something that we really are passionate about, that we're also very skilled at, that we see a need in the market for. So we start the business. We may or may not have, all the things we need or know all the things we need to set it up successfully for a strong foundation. Thinking about adding a fractional chief revenue officer, what does that look like?
I'm very open about our pricing because I hate the gamesmanship of sales. Like that is not a sales strategy at all. Patrick Lencioni's book, it's funny to say out loud, it's called Getting Naked. It's a really good avatar for kind of how we think about it. And back to that core of authenticity. I'm just going to tell you, with genuine care, even if it hurts. And so the way we decided our pricing was there's fractionals in our space. There's fractional CMOs. There's plenty of them. I know their kind of pricing structure. And it was always either too high. You're talking 15,000 a month or 12,000 a month. Or you get the kind of more traditional single shingle fractional where they're very focused on the amount of hours they're working. Mm-hmm. And, the price point on that hourly is kind of ridiculous. And then there's like fractional VP of sales or CSOs, and then like the big gun CROs, the enterprise CROs. And I said, nobody's solving the entrepreneurial business owner's problem at a price point that they can consume, because the best option that they had available to them was to elevate that sales manager to VP of sales and kind of marketing and not do very well. And then outsource the marketing, or the inverse would be true. You have a marketing director and nobody really running sales. And they said, okay, a really good one of those is between 130 and 150 with commission, but they're only really good at sales or they're only really good at marketing. And so I'm going to come in underneath that. It's going to feel like a full-time employee and we're going to be hands dirty. Like if my keyboard had dirt, my hands would be dirty. And actually do the work, right? I'm not going to measure by hours as much as I can avoid it, because let's be real, it's small business. Like we got 47 fires and we have one hose. So we got to just make it work. And so we charge between 8 and 10,000 a month.
Okay.
That's it.
Mhm.
I offer one line of service. I serve one way because we've solved a very specific problem.
Mhm.
And I think anytime people get into the hourly, well, what are you gonna, it just becomes an issue. And what I really care about is revenue and profitability. And that's the outcome I want to measure against. In 80 hours, 40 hours, it's like it's 8 hours, whatever it is, let's measure against the outcome. And I believe so strongly in our formula that when we add that expense, we can still generate an ROI over it. And that's one of our core methodologies is this thing called ROAS. It's the cheeky cousin of ROAS, RO.
Amazing. At what point should a business consider hiring a fractional CRO?
We have, found that generally the makeup of their organization looks like this. They're between 1 and 15 million in revenue.
Okay.
The CEO is trying to get out of sales and marketing. Maybe they have a okay salesperson, but they know they can't level up to like an executive strategic mode. The word strategy is being thrown around a lot. You're missing revenue targets or sales targets pretty consistently. You're fired an agency and you're frustrated with agencies. Like those are all the hallmarks. Those are all the signs that we're thinking of marketing and sales, and we're thinking about it in the old way. Generally, I stay away from e-commerce or any kind of like pure online transaction. I want the human element. So if your product has to be sold, like a human has to get involved, it's a better setup for our team. So generally it's high ticket, multiple $1,000 project or monthly recurring revenue that is in the thousands. A nice bucket is professional services, but it doesn't always go exactly in that realm. But that's when you're in that space and you're frustrated, you can't get out of the sales seat, you can't elevate your salesperson, you have a marketing coordinator, you're like, what are they doing? Is it worth it? That's probably when you need to call us.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. And at that level, you certainly have enough coming in to afford $8,000 to $10,000, which again is very affordable, but you have to be
got to get an ROI on it.
Yeah, exactly. You have a concept, simplify, measure, margin.
Yeah.
Explain.
You actually alluded to it when you said we're kind of getting scopes out here that maybe don't fit our target. And what I've found is there's this beautiful kind of trend. And I say beautiful because the ugly part of building a business is beautiful, always in reverse, right? When it's successfully looked at, oh, isn't that a beautiful journey? So let's talk about the beauty of it. The beauty of it is we figure our stuff out, we start selling stuff. Mm-hmm. And it goes so well, we sell more stuff. And along that way, because we're getting new people in our funnel, they're like, can you do it this way though? And a lot of people are like, well, I need the revenue. So yeah. And then they start to get out over their skis and they kind of tumble a little bit. Sometimes it becomes a spray and pray, or yeah, we really want to work in B2C, but we're working with this, Fortune 500 medical device company. It's like, what? B2C? We're not aligned. And you have these artifact clients. And so oftentimes what I'll say is, let's just simplify. What are we the best at? And I do this, I talk about it in the book. There's the ICP and WCP exercise, which is a funny way of doing it. So we'll do the ideal client exercise, and then we'll do the worst client.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Nobody does the worst client profile. And
so
then they're like, we shouldn't do that anymore because we hate working with them. And that's simplified. The measure is the revenue cascade. The revenue cascade is a really unique tool that we offer. It is really part of the formula. And that is measuring the whole marketing funnel and sales pipeline, and not measuring it like we're taught to measure it. So there's a lot of room to run in there, but we measure what matters most. We measure the buyer journey, and we always focus on margin. I love nonprofits, and I kind of took this from the nonprofit space, but it's like no margin, no mission. And a lot of the small business owners that I run into, they don't want to be smart, marketing and sales gurus. That's not what they signed up for. They're subject matter experts. They want to do a really good job at the thing they're good at. And they don't want to like figure out all this marketing and sales mumbo jumbo, and they want to serve, and they want to take care of their clients and their team. And if we don't have enough margin, we can't take care of our clients and our team, and we can't take care of the business owner.
Exactly.
And so I see that trap of they give more to their team and then the cash flow falls over, or the overindulging the clients, right? And then we're like, that's the worst client, but we're spending so much time, even though it's one of our biggest, most important. So we simplify who we're working with, why we're doing it, what we're doing and doing well. We measure that interaction of the buyer journey from the first touch to the sale. And then we make sure that whatever we're selling, whatever we're marketing is margin oriented. And that goes to the revenue department, the marketing and sales department. Like that has to be right sized so it's affordable. And sometimes we get excited and we write big checks and we shouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that often happens for maybe the businesses who aren't quite at 1 million. They look at all the shiny objects and the different courses or the different programs, say, we're going to simplify everything for you, but then you have to pay for it. And then you have to actually find the time to sit down and execute and go through it. And I'm majoring in AI and ML, like a specialty for my MBA right now. But I also have a lot of other courses and things that I sign up for so that I can learn how to use different tools. But it can be really difficult when you're managing everything else in your business and anything else you're doing, which is why it's fantastic to go. Like the last 2 days, I was at an AI conference, AI Mavericks, and I got to be really intentional with my time and actually workshop things and talk to great founders and CEOs of different tech companies about their tools, how they're using them. Would these be good for me to talk to my students about it that I teach at USC? Or would it be good for me to implement into my business? And I think those are really invaluable times, but I think we often get really overexcited, like you said, about trying all these things out, and then it's overwhelming.
Yeah, the formula tries to build a decent little sandbox for people to play inside in a safe boundary. I love the you're playing with AI because I think AI is a whole 74 podcast series. But what I'll say on the business owners, and I'm going to come back to the sandbox.
Yeah.
You know, being thoughtful with chasing shiny objects. Like if you haven't read Traction or The Entrepreneurial Leap from Gino Wickman, both of those books are incredible. I'm a student of the Entrepreneurial Leap Academy and I run on EOS. So there's my shout out to both of those.
Nice. Yeah.
You'd be doing them if you're under 1 million. E-Leap, the Entrepreneurial Leap Academy, under 1 million. If you are 10 employers or greater, you should be talking about EOS. Anyway, let me pull back on that. I've chosen to invest time in technology for our business, but I have a very intentional mindset for it is I want to experiment with things on my dollar, not on my clients. Mm-hmm. And so when I'm playing with AI or building custom GPTs or trying to integrate an AI chatbot or something like that, I try and do it for us first. So I get all the kinks worked out. Yeah. I do that also. Like, yes, strategically, I do it before them. So I know how it works. So I can be like, not just sell something I'm not good at. But the other part is like, I find joy in that as a business owner. When I'm learning and I'm, blame my father for this, Saturday afternoon, we watched a lot of MacGyver. If you guys don't, like, I'm going to try and build a rocket, pen out of, AI and, sheer determination. And that's the kind of mindset I love to bring to these small businesses because that's what they have. They're not sitting on a treasure chest. So when we talk about building the sandbox that we build we call it ROAS, ROASS. And it is a way to play marketing and sales like the casino, not the gambler. And I love this metaphor because people always start with Las Vegas. Who built Las Vegas? Was it the winners or the losers? It was the winners. Why the winners? Because the casinos set up all the games so they win.
Exactly.
In small business, instead of guessing on marketing and sales, ROAS allows you to set a number that is profitable, fiscally responsible, and then you play within that. And I find that when you give just a little bit of boundaries, but just enough space, people start getting really creative. And that's what I mean by building a sandbox. And that's when ideas like we had one client, they'd always done this really big event, really big check. They were really nervous about writing it. Marketing is like, we have to. We have the brand awareness. We get our CEO on stage. And salespeople are like, we sat there last year. There's like 1 out of 10 people are our buyers. It's not worth it. And they were in this tension. And it's a $25,000 check. And I'm like, all right, our ROAS number does not allow us to play that game. So we think of something different. And I value awareness like a marketer, but I also value the right audience for the salespeople. And so they came up with a brilliant solution. They were just going to do a very much smaller event fee. So they were sponsoring, but it was much lower, like almost 10 times lower. And then they also decided to run a special event on the side. So they rented a hotel, a lounge next door or whatever it was. I don't remember the exact details. And they had the most exclusive ticket in town. And instead of giving it out to the masses, the salespeople were going up and inviting those key targets.
Nice.
For the $1,500 for the drinks over there, they made a lot more money than they did last year on like a $25,000 event.
Yeah.
And marketing got excited about it. So marketing was thinking about how to maybe we geofence that night. That's cheap to do one time. And they just the ideas started to blossom. And for a tenth the cost, they got 10 times the return. And I think that's a really good avatar for how we think.
It really is. I appreciate earlier you brought up authenticity. And that's something I really believe in as a core value. I want everybody to see that I am who I am, whether I'm at work, at home, anywhere in between. I'm willing to share the good, the bad, the ugly, the success, whatever. I want to work with people who are the same, who also are very kind, who are excited and passionate about what they're doing, and want to really help others succeed. Talk about your core values and how they play into your team building, and then also the types of, does that play into the types of clients, even if they fit everything else, if they don't fit that aspect, do you still take them on?
Yeah, values repel. So I tend to, because of my authenticity and my boisterous nature, I tend to kind of push people away, and that's okay, right? I'm not going to be friends with everybody. I made peace with that in 6th grade. Yeah, so one of my favorite values that we have is we give more than we receive. I just think that one's really thoughtful. That's why you'll see I have a nonprofit. My wife runs all. There's so much opportunity for giving, and I call it in the book. I call it selflessly selfish. What I have realized over all the years is that the more I give, the more I get. And so it's okay to be selfish about it because I know what I'm doing. I'm going to give more because it always comes back. And so that's an interesting way of thinking about it. So when we go to a client, I'm going to work harder than I probably need to because I know that I'm going to give more than I get. My second, I don't know if it's my second favorite because they all kind of schmurgle, but in my favorites, and it depends on the day, we have one for urgency. And I've never felt more seen until I watched the play Hamilton. And I'm like, that's a guy. I'm not going to, miss my shot. You said 5, I wrote 85. Like, that is me. We wrote in the value, write it as kick ASS and take names. It's like, that's my jam. Like, that's me to a core. And you brought up authenticity. So I think this is a good audience for it. As my journey at the agency was winding down, I really thought my path in life was to be a second in command or an EOS. It's the integrator. It's the COO. It's what I really thought I was good at, which is very funny because I don't think that's what I'm like. I lose energy doing that role versus what I do now, being in the founder seat. And I was on this journey to find the next integrator job. And that's why I was actually writing the book, is like, how do I explain lab, karate, marketing agency? Like, how do I put all those pieces together? Because I don't know how I would describe that to anybody. But anyway, I got lucky enough to be interviewed. I'm going to just paint it. I don't like to name drop. So I'm going to just paint a picture and then let people figure it out for themselves. And I paint a picture in the book, but a very famous, extraordinarily well-known author in the negotiation space. I think he is beyond brilliant and has a super top selling book in the selling world. Yeah. And I had the chance to interview with him, which was very intense. 250 people were fighting to be his number 2. And I got in there somehow. I just kind of got in close. So I interviewed him. We went for almost 2 hours and it was intense. He was giving me feedback in the moment and I was back and forth. We were doing this, but it was good. We were having fun. I interviewed all of his team. I interviewed his son. It was such a great experience. I was more excited. I'm like, yes, I'm good at this. This is what. And so it kind of got down to, there was a traditional COO and me were the last 2. And his son had said, you're my dad's favorite, but they're worried. Oh. And so I'd been beginning kind of taught in my past life that you just kind of got to massage things and kind of, make them feel good and kind of go around instead of direct. And so that was playing through my head as I sat in the interview with the person and his business coach. It was the final interview. This was going to decide it. And I'm like, that was playing and the fear was playing. And the owner said something that didn't make sense to me. And I just kind of went with it and just kind of like, yeah, no, that'll be fine. And then the interview kind of ended awkwardly, just very quickly kind of wrapped up. And I kind of walked outside and I'm like, something went wrong there. And I was playing it back and I'm like, that's not how I felt. What he said was wrong. I would have said no.
Yeah.
And I played it back, and I don't know for a fact if that was really the deciding factor, but long story short, maybe figured out I didn't get the job. And I just said, I'm never going to be in that position again where I'm so scared about providing for my family that I don't feel like I have to tell my truth. And so I absolutely think authenticity is at the core of what I do. And marketing and sales sometimes feels fishy. And that's why I'm so obsessed with numbers, because you can't hide from the numbers. And then I'm going to just tell you like it is. And I won't tell you like it is unless I believe that. And that's why I depend so heavy on numbers. And so as much as that would have been a life-changing job, and I think it would have been really fun, I'm here now. And I can't imagine, this is the beautiful journey, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
that's why authenticity is the first value listed, because I'm never going to not tell the truth.
There's so much more we can unpack. But what I'm going to do right now is ask you, what's the best way for people to reach out, to find out more, to buy your book?
Oh my gosh. LinkedIn, because that's the place to be.
Yep.
I love that.
I love it.
Cracks me up. So definitely LinkedIn, Kyle Mealy. The book is called The Next Level Revenue Formula. It's on Amazon. I think it's on Goodreads. I don't know. I've kind of handed off the delegation of that. But yeah, I would love for you to take advantage of the book. I wrote the book to be a tool, not just like I have one good idea and I'm going to stuff it over 80 pages. It's meant to be a guide. It's meant to be there when I'm not, because I hate the feeling of owners being stuck. So by all means, take advantage of that. Or readyforthenextlevel.com. There's free tools in there like Revenue Cascade, which is part of the book.
Fantastic. And Kyle, I always ask, what's your favorite quote, mantra, family motto, verse, poem, words that keep inspiring you to keep on keeping on and stay in that authenticity?
I'm not throwing away my shot.
Great one. Great one. This has been such a delightful conversation. I think we could this is one of those conversations where I don't really want it to end, but I know we both have other things to do, but we could talk probably for hours. So we'll be staying in touch. We'll be talking about some other things, maybe getting on my other podcast and some other things that I'm doing. So thank you so much.
Oh, this was fun. I always am grateful that people give me space to just talk. So I don't like that part, but I'm grateful for the conversation.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you to everybody who's watching this episode or listening to it, getting some great advice on things to think about and look for in your businesses. Definitely check out the book, connect with Kyle on LinkedIn, and I will see you again with another amazing guest very shortly. Thanks for listening or watching to this episode of Your Brand Amplified. Don't forget to leave us a rating or review on your favorite podcast listening platform. And if you want to learn more, check us out at yourbrandamplified.com.